Driving on Gobert, into Gobert land, stops and gets it ejected. And it flies out to Exum, who gives to Hayward, who drives the baseline, who rips it for two with a hammer. All started by a crime in Gobert land. And a finish for Hayward.
My favorite part about that highlight is Ron Boone laughing when Gobert blocks Boozer. It's the halfway point of the NBA season. We'll break that down. Plus, look at the Jazz at the halfway point and an upset Derrick Rose. It's all coming up on today's edition of Tip Off. Bop, 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 bop. Pow. Hope you're doing well. We've got some audio issue going on here. Hopefully, you're able to hear me right now. I'm not sure that that's the case. Trying to look and see what's going on here. Microphone. Let's see now. Now you can't hear. Now can you hear me better? Maybe. We'll see. I think you can hear me better now. Am I getting better volume now? I think you are getting better volume now. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Glad to have you aboard. Hope you enjoyed MLK Day. Hope you took advantage of MLK Day to take a moment and remember what's important and what he did, and maybe read some of his writing. It'd be good for us right now. I actually picked back up Taylor Branch's Pillars of Fire and started reading it. It's 1,000 pages long. We'll see how far I actually get with it. Questions are open to you on the broadcast if you're live along with us today, or you can post those after I post the page. Many people did that today. We'll try to get to those. I do have a Skype hangout or Google Hangout with the kids here coming up in a little bit, so I got to fly through some of this stuff. I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. Welcome, still in San Antonio. We head to Cleveland today. We open this up every day with something we call the NBA 5, and then we dig deep on the Utah Jazz. So let's get right to it. You can follow us on Facebook at Locked On Sports or David Locke. You can follow us on Twitter at Locked On Sports. We have a great Google Plus community called the Locked On Sports Google Plus community, so I hope you'll join us at any of those places. And if you get a second to give us 5 stars on Stitcher or iTunes, wherever it is you're tuning into this broadcast, we greatly appreciate it. All right, time for the NBA 5. Derrick Rose is pissed. The Bulls have lost 6 times in their last 8 games. Got blown out by the Cavaliers, 108-94. Joakim Noah did not play. Rose said after the game, everyone has to be on the same page. Until then, we're going to continue to get our ass kicked. I think communication is huge. We're quiet when we're out there, and it's leading to them getting easy baskets, and we've got to give a better effort, and it seems like we're not even competing, and it's beeping, irritating. Pretty interesting. The Bulls actually, since the first of the year, are 25th in defensive efficiency, 26th in defensive field goal percentage. These are not things that they're used to. Who's he speaking of, though, when this team's been together for as long as it has? He's really got to be zeroing in on Gasol, probably, and Mirotic, and maybe playing the youngster out of Europe as much as they are. But pretty big comments there by Derrick Rose. Now, in the meantime, by the way, the Atlanta Hawks are just continuing to roll. And we probably have to start buying into it again. And at least listen to it. First of all, their schedule is such that they could win another 7 straight very easily. And that's what's most impressive to me about them right now is they're not blinking. You know, they don't seem to be that dominantly good, and yet they're not having bad nights. So they're not missing anywhere along the line. And they can really shoot it. They're number 2 in the league in effective field goal percentage over the last 10 games, which is the Warriors is the number 1. They're the number 3 offensive team and the number 3 defensive team over the last 10 games. And you look at them season-wide, and they're every bit that good as well. Atlanta is frankly bona fide in a conference in which Cleveland hasn't clicked in, Chicago's struggling, Toronto's a mess right now, Washington's still floating around there, but they're going to cause Washington huge problems because the Jeff T can actually come close to matching the speed of John Wall, and then they spread the floor, and I don't know if they can play Nene and Gortat on the floor at the same time, which gets them completely out of their game. Over in the Western Conference, Dallas got a nice win yesterday over Memphis. And how about James Harden? 45 points on 18 shots. If we're at the halfway point, who's the MVP? Is it Steph Curry? Or is it James Harden? By the way, two players who both played in the World Cup this summer. All we heard about all summer long is how the World Cup's bad. Every player who played World Cup is having a fabulous year. Seriously have to take the time to readjust that viewpoint on things. It has been a huge bonus for most players that went there and played. And the most fascinating story here in the second half of the season is going to be the Phoenix-Oklahoma City thing. So if you look at over the last 10 games, Phoenix is playing the seventh best team as the seventh best team in the NBA, and the Thunder are the 12th best. So over the last 10 games, Phoenix is the fifth best offensive team. The Thunder are the ninth best offensive team. Over the last 10 games, the Suns are the 13th best offensive team, or defensive team, and the Thunder are the 18th best team. The Thunder have got to catch Phoenix to make the playoffs. Phoenix is winning at a 58% clip right now. 58% clip. They hold that for the season, and they win 47.5 games. So Oklahoma City was at 20-20, so they have 42 games left, have got to get to 48 wins. Okay, so they just go 28-14. No big deal. Until Phoenix gets 2 games better than that and plays a little bit better the rest of the way, then all of a sudden they have to go 30-12. This is you look at the Western Conference 9, by the way, they all other than Memphis, who lost last night to Dallas, the other ones all won their last game. It is when this thing clicks in, those 9 teams are going to they may all win 50 games. And now to get to 50, they've got to go 30-12. Oklahoma City. It's going to be pretty fascinating to see whether they can get that done. I mean, the Suns are really playing well. And frankly, the Suns have lost some freaky games in this stretch, and they impressively, Hornacek got them through it. Part of the reason, by the way, is that Markieff Morris, particularly if you look at real plus minus, is much better than anyone realizes. But the Suns were 18-16, and they have won 7 of their last 9. They have a stretch here that will be interesting. They play, listen to the next 7-8 games by the Phoenix Suns. Portland, Houston, Clippers, Wizards, Bulls, all at home. Warriors road, Memphis home, Portland road. Between now and February 5th, in that 8-game stretch will determine whether Oklahoma City is going to make the playoffs or not. If Phoenix comes out of that at 5-3, 6-2, forget about it. Then I don't think the math lines up for Oklahoma City anymore. If they come out of it 2-6, 4-4, then the math starts to work. But that's quite the stretch right there. By the way, Thunder and the Suns play 2 more times. I mean, this is usually it's okay, hit March. No, we're underway now. These games all are going to matter at a very intense level. All right, that is your NBA 5. Let's talk some Utah Jazz. We're at the halfway point of the NBA season. What have we learned? What do we know? Are we pleased? The win-loss record's, I don't think, any better than it was a year ago. But it definitely feels different. Gordon said it yesterday in the paper, or said it, and then it went in the paper. I always love that. He said it in the paper. He actually didn't say it in the paper. He said it, and then it was put in the paper. The most impressive thing to me is I think the Jazz have found out in the first half of the season that they have 3 significant pieces they can build around for the future. Individual pieces. Derek, Gordon, Rudy. That's the core of this franchise. And then we see who else develops. We didn't know Rudy was going to develop like this. Derek and Gordon are frankly much better this year than they were a year ago. So I've talked about numerous times, going through something a second time. They They have much better understanding. The system helps them. But we've seen great defensive growth. We've seen offensive creativity. It's a long road. But I think we're seeing all the things we want to see. I mean, the team has been flat out good for the last 15, 16 games. Middle of the pack NBA team. Over the last 10 games, which includes the performance the other night in San Antonio, the Jazz come out as the 17th ranked team in the NBA. It's pretty good, right? Only 17th, but then you think about it, that's great. We were 28th last year. That's the progress you're looking for. 20th offensively, 12th defensively. I mean, the Spurs game, I thought defensively was really rather remarkable that you can be that bad offensively and still be pretty good defensively throughout the night. Hard to do. So what have we seen halfway through the season? We know that I really do think we know we have three pieces that last and hold kind of the core of the franchise. Gobert, Favors, and Hayward. I think we know that we've seen Quinn's creativity offensively. We've seen schematically defensively that he knows what he's trying to do and that it works. We've seen them evolve throughout the first half of the season to become a different defensive team than they were earlier in the year. They're more aggressive. They're making a larger impact on things. And now I think we wait and see. Trey's made some strides over the last little period of time. Though his shooting percentage over the last 10 games is right back at 41%. Ennis is in a serious scuffle. Let's see whether or not we believe he can make anyone on his teammates better, or make the team better, or not worse when he's on the floor. If you believe real plus minus, it's a pretty daunting future for Ennis Cantor if you believe real plus minus. It's not good. And then let's let Dante develop. Certainly has slowed down a little bit. Dante's got, my concern 10 games. Skills aren't there yet. Doesn't have full handle on each hand, doesn't have physical strength, doesn't have a right mind or body that's been through it before. Let him be. So it's I think we're probably a step or two ahead of where we thought we were going to be, largely due to Rudy. The Alec injury is too bad. We didn't get to see where Alec was going and how he was developing, and whether he matches the personnel. Could he play? Can Alec play with Rudy and Derek together? I don't know. But, think about some of the storylines we have earlier. Derek couldn't score when he was on the floor with Rudy. Then 7 games, over the last 7 games, what's Derek done? Shot 57% when Rudy's on the floor. Just begin to figure it out. Jazz defensive rating with Rudy and Derek on the floor in the most recent games, 92.8. It's that would be best in the NBA. They have a real chance to be an elite level defensive team with Derek Favors and Rudy Gobert. Now let's see if Ennis can come along. Can Ennis complement those two? That's I think where Ennis is. That's hard for him, right? He was supposed to be he and Derek. Now all of a sudden I think it's the other way. The performance by Ennis against San Antonio was as poor as I've seen him. Okay? 22 years old. A lot of stuff going on off his game. It's important the next few games that he brings it back around. Right? This is going to be an important time for Ennis. He's got to show some development. He has one games. He has 1 assist in the last 232 minutes on the floor. He's got to go back to passing the basketball. He's got to go back to helping his teammates. He's got to go back to playing away from the points and the rebounds. Right? Where does he get his self-worth? Points and rebounds. Okay, let's get our self-worth out of team. Let's get upset about missing a rotation or a defensive thing as much as we do about missing a shot. That's hard. It's hard when you're a free agent. It's hard when you're 22 years old. It's hard when everyone around you compliments you and on points and rebounds. It's hard when most of the people don't see your games. All they see is your box scores. It's hard. It's hard to play when you don't feel good about yourself. Right? These are hard things. He's trying to learn. Trey, impressively, after the disaster against Atlanta, has bounced back and played pretty well. I talked to him the other day. Said that's about as low as I've been, and I just decided to come out and just try to, deal with it. He's got to get better on the defensive end, but he's trying, making efforts at times to really try to understand the defense system and channel guys to the side. Too often they get back to the middle. He has a hard time keeping guys to the side. He's got to see if he can do it. That's all part of the process for the next period of time. Figure out what we have. Gordon, remember what you thought of Gordon at this time last year. You weren't overwhelmed by faves this time last year. Certainly weren't sure. Okay, take some time. Give the guys the chances. All right, let's take some of your questions. Ray, it's unlikely Gordon and Derek will make the All-Star bench for the West because of the Jazz record and because they're not All-Stars. Right? Not to be a jerk, but being an All-Star is brutal. And could we see Dante versus Trey go up against each other in the Rising Stars Challenge? Any benefit to either of them? I think we could see Trey and Rudy there. I don't think Dante goes. I would expect that we see Trey and Rudy. It's my guess. Let's go to Dell. Jazz need to trade their number 1 pick next year for an outside shooting wing. Wilson Chandler for Booker, plus Denver gets the right to swap with the Jazz in 2015 or maybe get it done on draft day for a similar deal or player. We're too young already. Right, we're too young already. I don't think there's any question, but there's also a question of when are we making our jump? Are we waiting for Dante? Are we adding a high-level veteran point guard that carries us and moving Trey, and then you're playing that high level? Are you waiting for Trey? So I think that's the first thing. But yes, I think outside shooting becomes if in fact we're going to be Gobert and Favors on the front court for the majority of the time, then Courtney Lee type defensive 2 that can really shoot it becomes really, really valuable. So certainly we need shooting. We're 24th or 25th in the league in three-point shooting. There's no question we need shooting. Dante Exum, I think, has made our second or third most amount of threes, someone told me last night. What is the truth on that? Most threes made on the team, Gordon Hayward, 67. Second, who shoots 37%. Second most, Trey, 61 at 31%. And Dante Exum, 34 threes at 31%. Yeah, that's not good. Sure. Doug, I need you to mute your mic, but I think I took care of you, so don't worry about it. James Hansen, with the emergence of Rudy along with Gordon and Derek's solid development, is Lindsay at a point where he would trade, draft, need assets instead of simply collecting assets? Perhaps that's why we might not see. Don't understand. Perhaps that's why we might not see a Cantor trade. Wouldn't that be why you do see a Cantor trade? So with the emergence of Rudy, along with Gordon and Derek's solid development, is Lindsay at a point where he will draft or trade for need instead of simply collecting assets? Perhaps that's why we might not see a Cantor trade. Well, you might not see a Cantor trade because of all sorts of reasons. One is it's the first time he's ever gone through what he's going through. Let him play through it and see how he develops. What do you think his market's going to be? I think his market's going to be very soft in the offseason. So if he's not going to get a big offer, maybe he's going to do what Greg Monroe does, and you get him back next year for $7.8 million and let him continue to develop. Unless you think he's hurting the team by somehow being on the team, which I don't. So I can't. So I think that you actually, there's no need to rush into any of these things, I guess is my point. We all want, we're in this immediate, it's stereotypically we're in this immediate gratification society and all this kind of stuff. But there's no reason to rush into any of these things. Time plays out. Let the steps take place. Giving up on Ennis today, maybe we really have decided it's time. But maybe not. And what's the damage of letting him develop for another 18 months if you could? Trey, everybody's down on Trey. Well, what happens if maybe not? Jeff Teague was terrible for his first 3 years in this league. So what happens if maybe not? What happens if he's going to develop and learn how to defend and learn how to play? I had a wonderful conversation with Trey the other day about how he's learning the pro game differently than the collegiate game and what he has to do to learn how to play the game differently. And I've got to try to become more of a Mike Conley type player than I've ever been before and look at his game. And he's tried to develop this little floater you're seeing in the lane and some different aspects. It was a good Q&A with David Aldridge and John Wall on the end, which lets you kind of understand what is these. John Wall was frankly terrible for first 2 or 3 years. He's a number 1 pick of the draft. Take some time. From Tom Green, measuring stick for Gordon Hayward on Wednesday. LeBron's playing much better and might have it circled. LeBron would have it circled to play Gordon? I'm not frozen. On the computer, I'm just frozen in my mind. Would be impressive if Hayward has garnered that level of respect. Really hasn't won a meaningful matchup in a while. How do you see it playing out? Tom, I love you deep in my heart because you tune into this show, but I have no idea what you're talking about. And I appreciate you asking the question. But I don't understand 2 things. The idea that LeBron would have a matchup with Gordon Hayward circled, and 2, Gordon hasn't won a meaningful matchup in a while. I don't understand. Tom, you might be like 13 or 14, and then in which case, no worries, dude. I love you. You're fabulous. That wraps up the show because my phone's ringing with my kids. See ya.